And good morning to everyone. And welcome to the Unintentional Heroes podcast today. We are here with some fascinating guests, of course, on every Saturday. And this Saturday is no exception. When you come to Unintentional Heroes, you, of course, never know exactly what to expect, but you do know that the information that you gain from some of these extremely talented experts always will benefit you in your quest to develop your business. Today, we have on our guest list Ann Carden. Ann is a longtime business person. She had 41 years, I believe, as far as business experience. And the last 21 years, she has owned her own companies and a variety of companies, as a matter of fact. It's both brick and mortar and online, which has brought her a unique experience as far as how to handle both and mix the two together. I also understand that she has published 2 books, and she has a third one on the way right now, probably to launch in a couple of weeks. So we'll get her to tell us about those books, and of course, have you watch for her new title that'll be coming out shortly. So before I give away all of her secrets, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Ann right now, and let's find out a little bit about her and how she can help you. There we go. And hello, Ann. How are you today?
Hello. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's our pleasure. You know, I understand that you have an anniversary or just had an anniversary. Is that right?
Yesterday, 38 years. 38 years.
Mm-hmm. That is wonderful. And a lot of experiences along the way with your husband. I am sure of that.
Oh my goodness. We were talking about that yesterday. We said, can you do, what stands out? And there were just too many things that over 38 years and we've been together 39. So, but married for 38.
Come on now. Give me at least one thing that stands out in that many years. Come on.
Oh gosh. Well, there were so many, but, I think the birth of our grandkids was such an incredible. I have triplet grandbabies. Whoa. That just turned 3. So when they were born, we were halfway to Texas. I'm in Missouri, so we were halfway to Texas, and we'd spent the night in Texas. We knew that she was probably going to go, but we thought Monday. She was already in the hospital. We thought Monday, and we got a call at 2 a.m. that those babies were on the way. So that was, that was just something that was just so exciting for us. It was our first grandbabies and triplets, no less, and so we were talking about that, but we have so many memories. I mean, 38 years, 39 years together. It's been a ride.
Oh yes. And I understand part of that ride is a big part of the story of your journey. I know that you have wonderful children and a wonderful husband, but yet some things along the way didn't go as planned, as I understand it. So you left the business world. Why did you originally leave the business world? What happened there? Tell us a little story about your journey, if you would, Ann.
Sure. So I was in corporate. I was working in corporate retail management, and we were living in California, and we had both the kids, but they were kind of being raised by a babysitter, and I just, it just wasn't something I wanted. And so we made the decision to move back to the Midwest where our family is. And I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Well, we moved to the country outside of a small town. My husband was driving back and forth to the city. And we also gave up, and this is something I kind of had forgot, but when he left his job in California, we gave up a company vehicle. So we moved back. We also only had one vehicle. And so here we are in the country outside of a small town. There's not a lot of opportunity for me to go back to work. And we just started struggling financially. It was just, dropping down to one income. We also bought a home at the same time. And so just everything, we really didn't realize, what it was going to do financially. So we were struggling. I started looking for a way to make money to help out my family. And that was how my first business started. And actually it's been 29 years ago. So that was the first, and I did that for 7 years and kind of
Very
ran a
good.
manufacturing company out of my home.
That was yeah. Tell us about your first business and how it came about. Why did it come about? And of course, I think this was back when there wasn't really a Google to go to. Is
Oh
that right?
no, their internet was not something that we had. So, it's always so interesting. It probably sounds kind of silly to people when I talk about what my first business was, but I was looking for a way to make money, and we didn't have any opportunity or much opportunity around. So, and I had always been kind of crafty and artsy, and I did it a lot as a kind of a stress reliever when I was in corporate. And I had a box of stuff. We didn't really have the money for me to go and buy things or anything, but I had a box of stuff that I had kind of used in the past and was, made some crafty things. And I thought, well, maybe I can make some things. And there's this little craft store in town, and she does consignment, and I can make some things and take them in there, and she can sell those. And that's what I did. But there's more to the story. For the first 2 weeks, I kept calling her and saying, has anything sold? Has anything sold? And she said, no, no. And come to find out, my stuff was really not going to sell with what I was making, but she was gracious enough to put it in her store anyway. And so, being somewhat savvy, I said, tell me what's selling. And she said, these dolls, these rabbit dolls. At that time, the craft industry was exploding across the country. And people were into like animal dolls and things like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do this. So I thought, well, if rabbit dolls are selling, I'm going to be in here with a rabbit doll next week. And so I went home, and I went to Walmart, and I looked at all different kinds of patterns and crafty things, and just sort of accumulated my own ideas, and went home and drew up a pattern and started. And long story short, Christopher, I ended up shipping those dolls all over the world for 7 years. And I had my own designs. I did patterns. I sold patterns. I ran a manufacturing company really out of my home. And my dolls even ended up on the cover of an international magazine. They were selected to be featured on Country Sampler, which was an international magazine. So that was exciting. But I remember it just orders and orders and orders. And I was also in a lot of stores throughout the country. So I had different states. I had stores in Colorado. I did craft shows. I mean, it was a full blown business. It didn't start out that way, but it ended up that way.
Why did you start that business? Was there a reason? Anything that keyed you to say, I've got to do something?
Yeah, so we were really, really struggling, and living in the Midwest, even just, buying groceries and things like that were tough. And so my husband hunted. That was our meat. I didn't have money to buy meat at the grocery store. My kids got a lot of hand-me-downs from cousins. And, I just started praying for a solution. I just needed something that I could do. My 4-year-old son needed shoes, and I sat down and cried because we just didn't have the extra money. And that's a hard story to tell, but that's just where we were at that time. And it wasn't like we were not intelligent people or that we couldn't make a living. It's just him driving back and forth to the city. There was just so much money going out for gas, and it was just all we could do really to keep our head above water. So that was the reason.
And boom, you hit a home run after you did a little focus group study. Is that what you would call it?
More or less, yeah. The thing is, I mean, it takes a while to build a business, right? So I don't want to make it sound like it was overnight. It was not. It was long, and it was long hours, and the things that people don't realize. And I talk about this all the time with whether you're starting a business or you've been in businesses. You have to realize there's so much time that it takes, to really get a business to a place where it doesn't require you as much. And I think the big reason why businesses fail is because people just don't get that. They think it's going to be easier than than having a job or working for someone else. But really the opposite is true. What's the saying? You want to have your own business so you can work 100 hours for yourself instead of 40 hours for someone else. I think that's the saying.
So true as well.
It is. It is, but I also am passionate about helping people try to build a business that can run without them, or they can sell someday, or, they can have some freedom. I have a team behind me. I have people that are, work for me, and I know you do as well. And you don't do every piece of your business. And so even, yesterday I spent the day with my husband, and I had my team was still working, and, doing some things to fill my program for next week. So that's the best, when you don't have to be in every piece of your business.
And I think you have the philosophy of always build your business to sell it, regardless of whether you're planning want to ever sell it or not. Is that kind of what you teach?
Absolutely. Now, I didn't have that philosophy when I first started, because I really didn't know to have that philosophy. That was something that I learned, though, as I started building businesses. And when I started when I sold my first business, I sold the patterns, I sold the designs to a pattern company. And so that was the piece that I sold. When I started my second business, again, when I started that business, I didn't really think about building something I would sell. But as I kept growing that and expanding that, then I started really thinking, I want to build this into something that, as it got bigger and bigger, I want this to be somewhat a retirement for us. I can, invest in this, and I can put the time and the energy and the money into it. And this can be a retirement for us someday. But, I learned along the ways that there's times to sell a business, times to not sell a business. So I learned a lot of other things too. But now I am really a believer in that. It doesn't matter what kind of business you have, because truthfully, that's where a lot of wealth can come from. So if you're going to put the time and the effort and the energy into building a business anyway, why not have something that can give you significant money when you do decide to exit, whether that's by choice, which sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes things happen and we have to leave a business unexpectedly, or, you have to make a shift in your life, and so you don't know. But everyone will leave a business at some time, in some way, shape, or form. And if they think about that, how can you build a business that if you had to sell it tomorrow, and maybe you can't yet, but at least if you're on the path for that, you're going to end up with an asset at the end, which is a really amazing thing.
Doesn't that also direct you to keep excellent records with your accountant in order to be able to even offer it for sale? Is that's in line, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that if you're going to build a business, you have to build something that's turnkey. And nobody wants to buy a job. I mean, I can't tell
Okay.
you how many business owners I talk to who come to me because they're like, I either want to grow this, or, I'm thinking about selling it. And when I really start talking to them, I say, what are you selling? And I'm thinking of somebody in particular who is, she did some kind of work for like medical billing, for a particular industry. And she had built this business, and she was still very small, wasn't quite at the 6-figure mark yet, but she had someone else helping her. But when I talked to her, she had been in that business for, I don't know, 10 years. I mean, it had been a long time, and she really wasn't making much of an income. And so when she was frustrated and she was burnt out, like most business owners get if they don't build something that doesn't require every piece of them. And when I started talking to her, I said, what are you really going to sell? And she said, well, I can sell my accounts. And so we started talking about that and digging into that. And I said, look, at the end of the day, she didn't really have anything really saleable. I mean, people could have gone out and got as many accounts as she had without having to spend the money to invest in her business. And she wasn't even going to be able to get much for her business, even if she was able to sell it, because she wasn't making any money. Well, nobody wants to buy a job, spend money to buy a job and not make any money and have to be working it. So you have to have a business that doesn't require you if you're really going to make good money selling a business.
Well, I know that you've owned several brick and mortar companies along the way before and in fact, that's what gave you the background to be the business consultant with the reputation you have now, is all that background in brick and mortar as well. And you have, and you have a fascinating story about one of your businesses in the fitness and health area. What did you get yourself into there anyway, huh?
Yes. So I had a large health club. My husband and I, as my fitness business, which was my second business, as it started expanding, we knew that we had to make a big leap and a big move if we were going to keep growing that business, or it was not going to grow. It was just, I was really at a place, it was a crossroads. I either need to get out or I need to expand, because I was exhausted and I didn't have room to grow where I was. And so we made the decision to, take out a loan and invest in a very large space. It was very much like a big warehouse. I mean, that's what I was looking for, a big warehouse that I could turn into a large health club. And we made a big investment financially. We had to do all the interior work for that and everything. So we put everything on the line for that business. And we knew that when we did that, that's where we kind of got the idea this could be, and he didn't really work in the business with me, but he has been my support system all along the way, I have to say, which is why we've been married 38 years, right?
Yeah.
So he's awesome. He's amazing. But, we made the investment to do that. And we knew that would someday be a plan for us that could put money in the bank and, whatever, pay off things, whatever. So after we did that, it was going along really, really well. And I just had this amazing health club in our small town. A competitor came in, and we were kind of a high-end health club. So, our memberships were higher priced. I even had I had a very high dollar membership. I ran some high dollar programs. We were very well known for that. We had the doctors and the lawyers and the successful business owners. They were my clients. They were in our business. But then a competitor came in, and they were 75% less my prices. And they basically more or less copied my business. I mean, everything I had, they made sure they had it, and then some. And they opened a brand new, huge facility. They had all the bells and whistles. It was a tough place. And I saw things starting to be a struggle. We started losing a lot of the people who were more money conscious. That $10 and $19 membership. Now that's not uncommon. Now we see that everywhere. But back then, when I was, this was many, many years ago, that was very uncommon. So it was kind of a new strategy, the whole volume model. And they started bringing in, they started getting a lot of my members. And it was a struggle, and I didn't know how to offset that. And one of the mistakes, the reason I'm so passionate about marketing today is because through the years building businesses, I burned up hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing. I mean, I used to tell my staff when I would run an ad and nobody would come in off the ad, I would say, gosh, I should have just thrown that money in the street and let the cars run over it because it just did nothing. But that was also, so when we had the competitor come in, I was starting to see things go backwards. I was just, this was our retirement. This was everything we had, really poured into. And all of a sudden, everything was threatened. And that was not a good place to be. So I started looking for ways to innovate. And I came across a weight loss company and they didn't offer. Now, I did offer nutrition, but I didn't offer like a full-blown weight loss center. So that I bought into a license, very much like a franchise, bought into that program, brought that in. We had, it was a whole separate business. I mean, I had a separate staff that ran it. I had separate salespeople, coaches, people that were in that. So it literally was two separate businesses, but it was also the one thing that really started saving us because it was higher dollar. So we were able to, where my fitness fees, were a certain amount, the weight loss fees were double or triple. And so it turned everything around. And I made the decision. I was always looking for ways to innovate and stay ahead of everyone else in my industry. And so I was, if they went left, I went right. I mean, that was just the way I started doing things in my business. If they got something, I found a different thing to bring in. And but it was also the reason I expanded, thinking, don't put all my eggs in one basket. If I can't make it, if I can't do the business that I'm doing here, let's expand and let's go to another town and let's open up another place. And that was what I did. So I opened 2 more businesses in another town that was about 45 minutes away. And I was still working a lot in the business. I mean, I had a big staff, but I was still training clients and I was still teaching classes and I was trying to wear all the hats and run the business. And now I'm doing it in 2 places. So it was really great with 45 minutes in between. So I did that, but it also took me on a journey to get better in business. It's why I hired my first coach. There are just so many stories that are wrapped up in that experience, but it's the reason that I became more knowledgeable about business and marketing and sales and all of those things. I went on a journey really to just become so good at what I was doing in business.
Well, that speaks well for your tenacity and resilience, because
I've never lacked that.
most people will just lay down and say, "Okay, I'm beat." It's the old the big box store syndrome. When small companies roll over when Walmart comes into town, yeah, they're gonna suffer some, but some of them just roll over and play dead.
Yeah,
So
you have to innovate.
yeah.
And you have to be flexible. I talk about that all the time. You have to be flexible. You cannot be, this is the only way. You have to look for ways to differentiate yourself. I mean, I even teach, coaches now. I mean, I work with coaches and entrepreneurs, and let's face it, there are a dime a dozen, but it doesn't mean you have to have competition. I'm very different from all the other business coaches out there in my experiences. All of those things make you unique.
Yeah.
And so everyone has something to offer that's different, but it's how you're able to position yourself and different from everyone else. It's how, even if you're selling the same thing, you can still differentiate yourself if you really innovate in you package things up in a certain way and you market in a certain way. And it's never going to be exactly the same. No 2 things are ever exactly the same anyway.
Not at all. But although I know you went through several other businesses, it's definitely what brought you to the decision then to help others, because you'd already been through it, and you knew the pitfalls, and you knew where the bullets were coming from, and you also knew that the old story about the pioneers, or recognize pioneer because he's the one with the arrows in his back. You have,
right.
You have to know when to be a pioneer and when to back off and follow others. But still,
That's right.
The major question I'll just begin. Another question I would have for you is what constitutes or what makes up a good entrepreneur that's either getting started or has been in business for a year or 2? What makes a good one? What qualities?
I think learn about business. You've got to understand business, marketing, and sales. I mean, you've got to understand those 3 things if you're even going to get off the ground. And so I think a lot of people start a business because they're good at something, they have a skill, or maybe they're passionate about something. I think most small businesses start that way, and that's a great reason. That's a great reason to start a business. But as most of them find out, they hit a wall at some point. And it's because they don't have the business skills. They don't have the marketing skills. If 50 to 87%, I think now it's probably dropped because of the economy and everything that we're in. But, before we had this explosive economy, the failure rate for small business was 87%.
Right.
Well, it's not because people aren't good at what they do. Most people are very good at what they do, or they wouldn't even start a business with it. The problem is they're not good at business. They're not good at marketing. They're not good at sales. And so if you can start viewing your business like a business, and you can start looking at what don't I know? How I wish I would have done this years ago. I wish I would have even had someone tell me, hey, you really don't know what you're doing in business, or you really don't know how to market. You really, there's things you could do different. Now we have the luxury of having podcasts and things where we can get educated and learn. So now I think you have to have the desire you have to be success minded, you have to be growth minded. And I think if you have a mindset of success, then you will always be looking for ways to get better and improve. And don't just get stuck in getting better at your thing. You've got to also get better at business and marketing and the things that make a business go.
So you have to either become completely well-rounded or find the person who can fill a gap that you have, or recognize. Now, recognizing that you have the gap is the first step, and many people aren't willing to do that.
Right.
They not want to admit that they're bad at accounting or they're bad at sales. But once they recognize it, then it's time to reach out for help from someone like Ann Carden that can help them develop that skill. Tell us a little bit about one of your favorite folks that you've worked with in your consulting business. Somebody that stands out that listened to you and said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it your way. Tell us a little story about that.
Yeah. So, I actually work with small business owners and I work with entrepreneurs and coaches. So I'll kind of give you a story about each. But I worked with a plumbing company. He was a referral to me from someone, I knew. And when I went in to talk to him, he said, and this is a huge takeaway for people, don't let your accountant run your business financially. You need to be responsible for your own numbers and your own business and not depend on it. It's great that they get your books done and all that, but you need to be the person that runs your business by the numbers. I could talk about that all day, and I won't. But
someone says sign your own checks, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's a big one too. Absolutely. And don't give people access to your bank account. That's another, oh boy, I could tell you stories. Oh my goodness. But anyway, so I went in to talk to him and he said, look, things are just stressful. I'm working, 120 hours a week. I haven't had a vacation in years. And he was fairly business savvy. He had actually worked with a coach at one time in his business. So he had some systems in place and he had some good things going on. He even had an accountant and a CPA doing his books and things like that. But here was the problem. He said, I need to expand. I need to hire another plumber, another couple of plumbers. And he said, because, we need to be able to handle the work, but I don't have the money. I don't have the cash. He said, here's the thing. My accountant says I have this much money in my bank account, in my business, but where is it? I don't have it. And so, of course, after having a conversation and digging in, he gave me everything he had and I took it. We agreed to work together and I said, we'll get this figured out. We'll figure out where the money is and what's going on. And so as we did that, we found out that he just had a lot of receivables out. And so I came back in, and he was local to me. So came back in a day or two and I said, I found all your money. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, it's all in receivables. You haven't collected. You've got a collection problem here. You're doing all this work. You're fronting all this money. You're putting out all this money to do these jobs, but you're not collecting the money. And so I think in about 45 days, we put about $240,000 in his bank account. Just that one thing. And then we were able to go on. He actually, I want to say we added about $1.5 million maybe to his business within 12 months. We started looking at the gaps. We started looking at, okay, what else is falling through the cracks here? And this happens a lot with businesses as they grow, as they expand, things start falling through the cracks. They don't have in place what they need. And so they're out there marketing hard and trying to bring in all this revenue, but they're leaking money in other areas. And so we have to fix the leaks. And that's a big part of what I do in businesses. And what I love to do is fix their leaks and start really optimizing and maximizing what they're doing versus just go out and spend. I know you're a marketer, but marketing isn't the answer in every situation, and it really depends on where the business is marketing their fastest path to profitability and growth, or do you need to fix other things first before you keep bringing in revenue? Not that you'll quit bringing in revenue anyway, but you don't want to put all your it doesn't, it's like sales. If you bring in a lot of leads but you can't close sales, it doesn't make sense to spend more money and more money and more money to bring in more leads. You need to fix the sales process. So that was a small business example.
And I'm sure he was extremely grateful along the way.
Yes, we had a great relationship. In fact, I was just texting with him that a couple days ago, and his business is doing phenomenal now. I mean, it's just doing great, and we put a lot of things in place. And here's the thing, Christopher. When I go in and work with a business, it's not go in and give them one thing and help them for that moment. When I go in and help a business, those strategies and those things that I implement into their company will help them for years to come. I mean, you don't even have a way to measure the kind of money they make from the thhave that I help them implement. But I've been able to turn around companies in 30 days and, that were bleeding money and get them profitable. And I have multiple stories. Coaching, though, if I'm talking about coaching, I had a guy that had struggled for 6 months to even launch, and he went from 0 to almost 7 figures in 1 year. So that was, so those were some good stories.
So all the way from the individual businesses to coaching to consultants, you cover the gamut as far as being able to be of service to those folks in all those categories.
Business is business.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Business is business.
That's right.
It really is. I did not plan on working with coaches, though. That just happened. Just the same way I work with a lot of contractors. I didn't plan that. I worked with one, I had great results. He started telling people, they started coming to me. All of a sudden I'm in this niche that, I didn't plan on. I've never owned a contracting business, but I certainly have made great strides in many of their businesses. And same thing with coaches. They were coming to me to find out, how are you doing so good? And how's this working? And how are you doing this? And I started helping them. And then I kind of fell into this. This is kind of my online niche is entrepreneurs and coaches. And then my offline is more small business. So
anyone that has the desire or has started a coaching business, I'm sure Ann would be your go-to person if you want to expand and make it profitable. I think coaching is something that we all think about because we have been through, as you have, the scenarios along the way. Before we got on, as I told you, I haven't had a paycheck in over 40 years. So, along through those years, I've learned a lot. And I'm sure that, and I do some individual coaching now, but it's not really, I can't call it a niche that I actually do. All right, but that being said, now I understand that you have a special program coming up next week that I want everyone to know about, because it's you're going to learn a lot about what Ann is all about through a program that she has coming up next week. You want to talk about that for a minute?
absolutely, I would love to. So I'm doing something kind of unique. I do have a Facebook group for coaches, entrepreneurs, and experts, and I do a lot of training and everything there, but I've never done like a 5-day training, specific to something. And so next week, I have decided that I'm going to do a 5-day training where I'm going to go live in an exclusive Facebook group, and it's called 5 Days to an Extra 100K. And it really is for entrepreneurs, coaches, experts who really want to add an extra 100K or even more. They're really at a place where they're ready to level up. So the whole 5 days is going to be about leveling up your clients, getting better clients, higher paying clients, leveling up your prices, being able to, have better packages and increase your prices, and then how to build up your brand and really be more visible and really start attracting the clients that you want. But ultimately, it's about money, right? I'm a business. It's about impact too. I don't want to make it sound like it's not about impact. I love helping people, but I want to be profitable helping people. And I want to make good money helping people. And so that's really what it's all about. So yes, I'm excited about it.
Well, I will tell everybody it's on right now. And of course, as the podcast ages, it won't be as important, but it is important for people who are going to watch the next couple of days. But I myself have signed up for her program, and I'm looking forward to taking it myself and learning from Ann. And do you have anything that you would like to impart to the audience before you go today?
I think one of the things I kind of talk about 4 areas if you're looking to scale your business. I have kind of a 4-step process for scaling your business, and this is any business. This really doesn't make any difference. So if you're starting up, obviously you've got to know what you're selling. You've got to be able to market. You've got to be able to sell. But scaling is a little bit different. It's not a traditional growth method. So scaling is looking for ways to make faster leaps that are higher profit, less energy, less time and stress. So I use the scale method with my business owners. But there are 4 basic areas: visualize, strategize, optimize, and maximize. And it's first, know where you're trying to go, know what know what you want. Then you've got to put the roadmap and the strategies in place, not just tactics. Tactics don't work. You've got to always have a strategy behind what you're doing. And, strategy is a series of tactics put together to get an end result. So strategize. What are the steps that you need to get the goal, get to the goal? And then you have to optimize. Don't always just be looking for the next client or looking for marketing to be. So again, that's kind of the volume method. Look at how you can consistently shift, improve, and grow on the inside. So it's kind of like I use the example of, it doesn't make any sense to keep getting leads if your sales process is not working, right? You're leaving a lot of money on the table. So that's what optimize is. Look for the leaks in your business and look for consistent improvement in your business. And then from there, you can maximize, add new revenue streams, market, more marketing, ramp up your marketing, all of those things. And don't always look for growth outside, look for growth inside your business first. So that being said, 2020 is just around the corner. This is a great time for people to do the visualize part and the strategize part. What do you want for 2020? What do you need to make that happen? How can you set up the steps in the roadmap to get what you want? And just doing that little exercise, Christopher, their mindset, their subconscious will already start kicking in to start looking for ways to get them to those goals. And they'll stay more focused and they'll have more of a direction, which is important. Focus is important.
Well, I know as we talked before we went live today, you mentioned something else which is a little bit surprising, I suppose, and that is that when you market, you don't really teach the same methods that other people do as far as marketing. You want to talk about that for a moment?
Sure. I think one of the things that really sets me apart from a lot of people out there who are maybe business coaches or, they're trying to help people grow their business is they teach one way to market. So, for example, I help you market your business on Facebook. Well, that's great, but is everybody on Facebook? No. Or I help you market on LinkedIn. Is everybody on LinkedIn? No. And so the problem, I think, with a lot of people out there with programs is they don't know how to really help the client figure out where are their ideal clients and where can we reach their customers. And that's something that I do very different. So if we know that the best way for you to reach your clients is going to be through speaking, then we're going to create a marketing system. So you have a rinse and repeat system that can get you clients through speaking. If it's through LinkedIn, we're going to do that. If it's through Facebook, we're going to do that. If it's through networking or chambers, I built my businesses through my offline business, through networking and chambers and workshops. So I know how to do all of those things. And I think that's very, very different from a lot of the people that are out there. So it's what do you want in your business and how can we best reach your ideal clients? And then that's what we need to create the system around.
And great advice, because I know that when people just get locked into one particular type of marketing and they go, well, it's really not working that well, but I'm going to spend another $100 on it. I'm going to spend another $500 on it. Well, you got to know when to say no and go on. And I think it's the same way. You'd correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm keeping you on longer than I than I should today. But there's also something else that I've learned along the way. When people start their own business, it's like their little baby. It's their child. They have emotions, deep seated emotions about it. And many of them, when the baby is sick and needs to go to the hospital and is maybe dying, they don't know when to say, enough, I'm done. I mean, they will hang on until they lose everything without realizing that they can make a small shift, go a little different direction, but they're hanging on to what they had. Am I wrong here? Because I've seen it so many times, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
No, I mean, here's the thing, your baby has to grow up, right? And so that's why I said you have to be flexible, you have to be innovative. But I have to tell you, probably the best advice I could give anyone on here, and I'm not just saying this because I coach and consult people, but the best advice is literally to get yourself a coach. You have no idea the value it can bring to your business. Like I always say, do you want to take a horse and buggy to your success, or do you want to take a jet plane to your success? I mean, that's kind of my saying, because that's so true. When I hired my first coach, I had no idea what it was going to do for me. And it just put me on such a different course. Like it's so cliche, but you don't know what you don't know. But that's the same for all of us. I consistently work with people who are doing better than I am, so I can learn from them, because it's going to fast forward my success, and it makes it less stressful, less energy. And truthfully, Christopher, people are spending the time and the money anyway. They're just doing it in the wrong ways. So they might think, oh, I can't afford a coach. Really, you're already probably wasting the money. You haven't looked at it that way.
Yeah, it's just not an expense.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So you can put it into the right things, or you can put it, into just spending the time and energy. But, a lot of people, their egos just, you're passionate and you think nobody else. And this is the thing with scaling too. You've got to let go of control, and you think nobody else can do it like you can. But the best business is one where you can duplicate yourself.
Oh, that is so, so true. And that's almost impossible in some digital agencies, because they simply don't think that way. I appreciate all your time today, but before you go, do tell us the name of your upcoming book so people can look for it when it's out and available.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for letting me share that. So the book is called Expert in You: Build a Lucrative and Impactful Coaching and Consulting Business with Your Expertise. And a lot of people don't think about becoming a coach or becoming a consultant. But even like, say, somebody who's run a plumbing company for 20 or 25 years and has been successful, they are in the prime place to add a new revenue stream, a new income stream that can be high profit, by teaching other people who are up and coming in their industry how to build a successful business. And so I love taking experts and turning them into coaches and consultants. But that really is what the business, or what the book is all about, is kind of going from startup to scale. And it's really good for marketing companies, marketing agencies, anyone really that's in professional services that think they might want to do the coaching or the consulting component. It's really designed for anyone like that.
How can people reach you best? What is the best way for them to reach out to you, Ann?
Sure. So I have actually two websites. I have one for my small business owners and one for coaches. I'll give you the links to those, but AnnCardenCoaching.com is my small business website. And I also have some free resources on there and lots of videos and things that you can grab. I also have a YouTube channel, by the way, and those links are also on my websites. And then I have a consulting site, which is AnnLCarden.com. And again, I offer a lot of free training and free resources on both of those sites. So those are probably the best ways, but you can connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn. You can Google me. You'll have no trouble finding me.
Okay. Well, I guess AnnCardenCoaching.com. Is that correct?
Yes. And then AnnLCarden.com is also one.
All right. Very good. Very good. Ann, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.
You know, 30 minutes, but I know better, as far as time goes. So it's been a pleasure. And I will be with you on Monday and
Thank you.
you're coaching there and teaching. And I would hope everyone else would also look that program up, which starts next week. Have a good
I
afternoon,
love that.
Ann, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me as a guest. It was fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, there we have it. It is amazing how talented so many people are in not only the industry you're in right now, but she actually addresses a multitude of different foundational businesses that you actually are a part of. You think that she wasn't talking to you. Well, she was, as a matter of fact. And as far as the idea of can you get a coach or can you afford a coach? Well, I didn't actually get a coach myself until actually fairly recently. And I have found in the process that it has meant everything in the world as far as direction, ideas, and the things that you don't know that you don't know. And that's just a fact. So I appreciate all of you here today on the Unintentional Heroes podcast. And I hope you will join us next Saturday for another edition of Unintentional Heroes. Everyone have a great day. We will talk again next Saturday. Bye-bye.